Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Capital. The Nain Rouge will be coming up. There's a march for him in the month of March. But we're going to attend another rally, though, not in downtown Detroit, but up Woodward Avenue, Main Street, Detroit, but south of Highland Park and south of Holbrook. Detroit is everywhere. Oh, and when we had the World Cup, that's where I came up with the name Small World USA. And DET.com. Okay, the walking tour will begin here. Art is everywhere, even in the ruts created by tires plowing through the snow. Smokestacks, and they're looking particularly well in this neighborhood. Here's one example. I'll look at the housing stock a little bit as I'm making my way to the church where there's going to be a Dr. Martin Luther King Day annual rally and march for jobs, peace, and justice. So this is a new location this year. Nice porch action right there. I like that. Nice windows up top. And this one with the round turret. All right, made it to Woodward Avenue. Blaine and Woodward, precisely. But yeah, design your life. Well, let's design Detroit. Let's make Detroit great again. It is very possible. Well, across the way, St. John's Church, and this was Dr. King Day, so a lot of people were celebrating the holiday. I took a half day off work, and I knew about this event, so I says, hey, they used to have it at the Central United Methodist Church downtown near Comerica Park, but this is going to be a new place. Here, this building, it used to be a library. It might be like a daycare now, but it's not totally used. It may be a good location for a restaurant. Across the way, my house shall be called the house of prayer for all people. For all people, yes. Temple Bethel. Look at the architecture here. That harkens back to my high school days when I studied that stuff. All right, well, I made it to the spot here for Dr. King Day, and it's held now here at St. Matthew's and St. Joseph's Church. One of many events in honor of Dr. King, but I knew of this one. Fox 2 beat me to the punch, though. I was lollygagging around, but we're going to check out this beautiful church, and we're going to hear a bunch of speakers that are advocating for people that are less heard. You know, the poor people, people that might be losing their jobs, the like, migrants. Let's listen in.
It needs to be international to be effective. But when we look deeply within, we are all the same. Only international solidarity can beat international greed. And what I say, if companies will not respect the workers and our communities, which clearly they do not, we need a the entire nation and the entire world. I want to talk to you, I don't know, some of you
actually had a sit-down strike in the plant, like the old days. Tax money as incentives, supposedly, for maintaining jobs and for setting up these production facilities. And when it even looks like they won't make a profit, they close down. They lay off thousands of people, and they tell people they have to move to other cities and other states. And this needs to stop. And that's why we have to organize, that's why we have to mobilize, and that's why we're here today to reinforce ourselves, to reinvigorate ourselves for this struggle that we have to wage in 2019 and beyond. Campaign and mobilization as well as civil disobedience. And many people were arrested in Lansing as well as in downtown Detroit at what is known as campus marches. I like to call it Gilbertville. Yes.
Thank you, Abiomi, and all of them are referring now, Dorothy Aldridge, who the process of pulling the anti-war movement and movements for economic justice, unions, and poor people's movements into a common movement, which he was calling the Poor People's Campaign. And in fact, he was in Memphis in a struggle that was both against racism and for economic justice, the sanitation workers' strike. He was doing that to confront what he called the giant triplets of racism, militarism, and extreme materialism, the war on the poor. Those three triplets had been claimed and taken up by the New Poor People's Campaign, along with a fourth, which they've added people who were involved in direct actions. And in addition to the Gilbert Seven, who I'd like to ask to stand just now, anyone who is involved in the direct action. Thank you. The action that happened here in Detroit was actually the sixth and last. The other previous had been in Lansing. And we focused, we began, had many pieces to it, all of those kind of happening simultaneously. We focused on Dan Gilbert, and I want to say a few things about him in addition to Abiomi's comments. He's emblematic of the system where the giant triplets rule. That's right. It's one of the goals of the Poor People's Campaign to try to break into the national narrative, which excludes race and class, which excludes poor people from debates about budgets or government shutdowns, and which in Detroit is exemplified by Gilbert and the Making Detroit Great Again narrative, where meanwhile black and poor folks are being expelled from neighborhoods. He's worth $7 billion, owns 100-some buildings in downtown Detroit. He co-chaired the Blight Task Force, which surveyed the city, identified what the prosecution doesn't have a right to tell us what our defense should be. So we welcome you and we say thanks to all those who have participated in this campaign and for the support of more.
She does our cultural program every year for Martin Luther King Day. She's also a scholar, a writer, a poet, an intellectual, and a community activist. She's here today representing as well the LEO Press.
University of Michigan Dearborn, and our rally cry for increased wages was respect the lex. So can I get you to all say, respect the lex? Respect the lex! All right, so our lex, that means respect your lecturers and your adjunct professors that are working at most major universities in Michigan.
Elena Harada, she works on many different issues here in the city. She is a...
Thank you. It's a wonderful crowd we have in our new venue today. I want to just raise a moratorium now on the others who organized this event. They keep plans for moving to Mexico as if Mexican workers are the problem. Workers are not the problem. Workers do not set the wages that we make. We don't decide one day that we're going to bring our children with us to work. We don't decide one day that we're going to cross the border through the desert, through all manner of treachery, unimaginable treachery, to get to a place where we are held together in caravans, to be raped, to be robbed, to wait, to be negotiated over, to be used as chattel. Any of the workers bargained for that. I'll talk really personally about young people that I have had contact with, for whom I signed guardianship or bonds, who were unaccompanied minors who crossed the border from Guatemala into Mexico, into the U.S., into Arizona, who were detained and then allowed to come awaiting their court dates. Why are people allowed to come? Never are there sanctions against employers like there are against workers. Why do we call people illegal workers instead of saying illegal employers? We never, ever look at where the problem actually is. We look at people who are victims of these circumstances. This is a real situation that we're facing right now. And in the dismantling of the labor movement as we know it, in the right to work Michigan that we know, we could actually take this moment to seize upon the opportunity to have an actual movement for workers. Right. A movement that is not held together by arbitration and labor laws that protect employers and top-ranking union officials, but a movement that actually allows people to defend themselves by walking out of workplaces and going on strike. It would be a movement that allows us to defend ourselves against the changes. Look in Michigan right now, we're looking at the Iona Detention Center being turned into an immigrant detention center, criminalizing people who came here to work. Nobody could come home. This is not a dream. This is a real possibility. And we have to stop allowing people with the absolute worst ideas to have a corner on what is realistic. We can't allow the worst ideas in the lowest levels of human capacity to be decision makers. We have to grab this away from ill-intended power. It's not just Trump, it's all the people around that think that he has the power. If everybody just stopped and said no, why is Trump the only one that doesn't have to pay taxes? Every penny that we pay is bullets for ourselves and people for whom we have no grievance. I'm really advocating here for people to really look at the laws that are on our books as evil and stand up against evil, stand up against being made enemies to each other. We don't even know the people that we're being turned against. This is an overall call for us to really examine labor laws, immigration laws, schools. Look at what the schools are doing. I'm asking us to look at everything and reach into our greatest humanity, our God-given strength and morals to be able to really say who our true enemies are. Thank you.
Please give generously as possible. participated in the civil rights struggle. She's a founding member of the Association to present this award to Razia Democracy.
Dorothy called me, speaking out, giving their best, their own bodies, their time, their energy, could make a difference. When we were involved in the fight for, against the foreclosures, the volunteers who came to my aid and would sit with me and comfort me through the tears and all would say, you know, congratulations to you and those of you who are in this room, because you represent a small number of the people who really need this help. We've got to be more active in believing and coming forward and receiving help. And a beautiful result. We were victims. Most of us took some beatings and took some really rough experiences. Many of us saw that when we came out of a meeting, our cars had been tagged and we were fired or whatever from the jobs and the things that we had depended on. But we still stood, and still we rise, is my end. I'm grateful for this, and I encourage all of you that it's worth the fight. Whatever the struggle is, whatever you are dealing with, there are those of us, and Detroit is a great place, I just have to give it to us. We get some interesting press, and I think it's because we are so strong and because we have so many initiatives here that there is a movement to help us think differently, but we are in the right place. Look around you. Just look around you and appreciate each of you for what you have brought to this movement. And I know Dr. Martin Luther King is proud. His spirit is very proud today as he looks and listens to us. Thank you so much.
On for nearly 4 years now, where tens of thousands of households in Detroit and Wayne County live in a precarious and perilous situation, not knowing whether their homes will be foreclosed on due to delinquent property taxes, over-assessed property taxes. Jonathan saw this as an opportunity last summer, and
Good afternoon. So this past summer, the city and county treasurer's office engaged in one of the most inhuman rituals that I've ever seen. And it's putting more than 1,500 occupied homes up for auction to investors. Now, as the city talks about stabilizing neighborhoods, we're talking about 1,500 families who are being not only destabilized, but destroyed. Now, the city is actually proud of this number, 1,500, because they say it's a low number. Granted, it's higher than all of the other occupied foreclosures of the next 5 cities combined. But they say it's low because it's less than what Mayor Duggan and County Treasurer Eric Sabree have foreclosed on before. So we were targeted because of that. So we had banks and mortgage lenders like Quicken Loans, like Bank of America, who now occupy some of the tallest buildings in our city. They went door by door to neighbors, to the elderly, to people who couldn't speak English and understand the terms of a loan, to sign them up for a mortgage that was fraudulent. So when we're talking about the housing crisis, that started in Detroit. Our housing market Now, instead of giving these homeowners some reprieve, the city government actually double-dipped in this fraud, because while these lenders were able to get away with fraudulent mortgages, the city overassessed homes based on these mortgages and based on these valuations. So you had city officials overassessing homes at 3, even 4 times their value, and then passing those taxes off to homeowners. Now, we know this didn't happen in wealthy communities, right? We know this only happened to the poor. It didn't matter if you were black, white, or brown. If you lived in a neighborhood that they wanted to develop in, you could guarantee that your taxes were illegally assessed. And the city was actually sued because instead of providing waivers and exemptions, which they're legally obligated to low-income residents, what the city did instead was encourage people to sign up for county payment plans. Who's heard of one of those county payment plans? You know, Sabri's always on the radio. You had yellow bags being placed on doors with families in them, with children. All for a few bucks. Really all for a few bucks. So, a different perspective, right? Now, some of these people might be evil. I think a lot of them are just ignorant. A lot of them are just ignorant, but ignorance is just as dangerous, if not more, than evil. So those in power will tell us that we live in a democratic and a free society. They will tell us that we have liberties and rights such as speech and expression, but I have to ask them this. If we don't have a right to a home, if families are forced to squat in homes that used to be theirs, if we have our children being damned to dilapidated schools and illiteracy, if we have mothers who are fearing having their children being taken from them because the city shut their water off, if our tax dollars are going to developments that will never benefit anyone in our neighborhoods, how are we free? What rights do we have? On a white man's plantation in the heart of Georgia. It was very easy for my father to know who his oppressor was. It was easy for my grandfather to know who his oppressor was. Now, we live in a very different scenario because slavery, exploitation exists everywhere. It's still on the farm, right? As we talk about undocumented workers, as we talk about immigrants who are being paid literally pennies. As we talk about people in prisons who are being paid pennies, as we talk about people in restaurants, lecturers in some of the most well-renowned institutions in the world being paid pennies. Slavery is everywhere, and sometimes it's difficult to see who your oppressor is, but my father always told me this: if you appeal to those with power and ask them for more, they're going to say that you're unreasonable. They're going to say that you don't understand how the world works. They're going to say that you're entitled. Well, I stand here today to say that I am entitled. I'm entitled to my life. And I'm not going to let a bank or a bought-out politician tell me that I'm not entitled to my life. And to live, I need a home. To live, I need a job. To live, I need water. To live, I need food. So if you're not going to give those to me, if you're telling me that I'm not entitled to live, and I'm not going to accept that, will you accept that? Will you accept that? Then let's fight.
Some of us probably saw it on television or out on the picket line talking about one job should be a local 24. Let's have a warm up.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm just telling you that young brother has really inspired me. I think of myself as a kind of young leader, still growing, but I want to days ago. And the subject matter was the fierce urgency of now. That resonated with me so much because so often things need to happen and we point to other folks that get it done for us, and we say this person is smarter, this person has a degree, this person is a fighter, this one is always slept up. But we don't realize that the fierce urgency of now is in with all of us that are here today, and it's so important that we live in that. Just months ago, our union fought for a little bit over 7,000 workers across various states against the Marriott Corporation. Marriott Corporation, the richest hotel corporation in the world, build or buy several hotels a day. But what's not happening is that was not resonating to the hotel workers who work in the hotel that made those hotels profitable. Unfortunately, the Westinbrook Cadillac, which is the most profitable hotel in the city of Detroit, the workers there, on average, could not afford a living wage. Had to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Sometimes worked so often, so hard that they had to stay at work because they could not afford enough money to get a cab and go home and come back the next day. So what we did was we fought, we organized, and we uplifted the workers and let them know that the fierce urgency was now, that they had to change it, that they could not sit and wait for no other person to change it, they had to change that. What's unfortunate is that just 81 years ago, that same hotel in 1937 was on strike. It was a sit-down strike led by the most powerful woman in the labor movement at that time, Myra Wolfgang, and she led workers on strike. For me, I could not fathom just 81 years later that we're still asking for the very same things that we should have gotten thus far. Respect on the job, dignity, and a living wage. Stand up, fight back, because all of us here today, and as a collective effort, if we do that, we are more powerful than what comes our way. I thank you for your time. I thank you for being here. I thank you for believing in workers. And we must stand up and fight back. Thank you.
Here today, she traveled in this very, very bad weather yesterday morning to the city of Detroit. We were in meetings with her yesterday for Walker.
Under my tail. You know, I was just saying to Elena earlier that it's an honor, of course, to be here as your keynote speaker, but it will not go down without a fight. It's inspiring. It's truly inspiring for me to be here. IFCO has a history with the city of Detroit, as Aviana demanded equality for those in the South, Birmingham and Selma, as well as in the North, and Watts in Chicago. This is the king that we are called to remember and lift up on this day. But not just today. This is the king that we ought to remember and share with our children, and our students, and our peers, and our neighbors, and our faith leaders, and our elected officials, our friends and our fellow members in our houses of worship, and in our community centers. This is the man that we should reflect on as we rethink our understanding of Dr. Martin Luther King. Because Dr. King's thinking, as is the case for most of us, evolved over time. In the 1950s, when King was not even yet 30 years old, his focus was on equality for black people that he thought the Christian church could help achieve. He believed that, quote, tragic inequality and ungodly exploitation could be reversed by Christian social action. Right? He believed in the ideals of liberty and equality. And these were noble, certainly noble ideas, and understandably central to the thinking of a young black Baptist pastor steeped in the struggle for civil rights. But a decade later, at the peak of the civil rights movement, his views had significantly shifted. He no longer embraced the idea of gradual change. Gradualism, he called it. He explained that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed.
That's right.
He famously said, justice delayed is justice denied. And listening to speaker after speaker here this morning, you understand that, and you're bringing that message not only to the community here, community of Detroit, excuse me, but the national community. Overly focused on economic injustice, moving the operation of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, north to Chicago, where the focus was on housing and employment discrimination. And Vincent Harding, his friend, again said, King believed that the next phase in the movement would bring its own challenges as African Americans continue to make demands for better jobs and higher wages and decent housing and education equal to that of whites, and a guarantee that the rights won in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 would be enforced by the federal government. He warned, quote, the persistence of racism and death and the dawning awareness that Negroes' demands will necessitate structural changes in society have generated a new phase of white resistance in the North and in the South. Focusing attention in the North, specifically in Chicago, King continued his pursuit of economic justice for Black people, telling the staff of the SCLC, something is wrong with the economic system of our nation. Something is wrong with capitalism. There must be a better distribution of wealth, and maybe America must move toward democratic socialism.
Yes.
Something is wrong with capitalism. There must be a better distribution of wealth, and maybe, just maybe, America must move toward a democratic socialism. Those are powerful words that illustrate the shift in King's thinking as he grappled with the reality of economic injustice in this country. So while King's I Have a Dream speech is often recited, especially on the holiday marking his birthday, it does not reflect the man at the end of his life, or the full scope of his life, or adequately underscore the lessons he taught us. King's dream ultimately evolved into a call for fundamental redistribution of economic power and resources. In fact, that is why he was in Memphis, supporting a strike by sanitation workers when he was assassinated in April 1968. And a few years before his death, King embraced economic justice as an essential element of equality. The country, MLK delivered his most passionate and politically explosive statement about the war and the growing link between militarism abroad and human rights at home at the Riverside Church in Manhattan. He described the United States as, I quote, the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today.
Woo!
In so many ways, his words really resonate as much today as they did then. He said, a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is misguided and approaching spiritual death. He urged young men to boycott the war by becoming conscientious objectors. And the very next week, after delivering his Beyond Vietnam speech, a very famous speech at Riverside Church, King marched from Central Park to the United Nations at the head of a crowd that some estimated had exceeded the numbers that gathered for the March on Washington in 1963. We rarely hear about that action or that Martin Luther King. Speaking out against the war, King said, I speak for those whose land is being laid waste, whose homes are being destroyed, whose culture is being subverted. I speak for the poor in America who are paying the double price of smashed hopes at home and death and corruption in Vietnam. The prophetic work of Dr. King has provided an example for many seeking equity and fairness, including INCO, founded by progressive clergy, and lay people, with the only understanding being that they would return home here to the local communities to serve. EDCO, led by the vision of my father, was the only U.S. organization to step forward to help facilitate this program. My dad saw the value of this exceptional offer as a way for our young people who had the dream of becoming physicians but didn't have the $250,000 to pay for medical school in the United States. And as a young black boy, my father was at times discouraged from reaching his goals. He recognized Infidel's gift, an incredible lifeline for our youth. Today, we can proudly boast that there are 175 U.S. graduates of the Latin America in the beginning. Similarly, decades later, IFCO became clear that that so kind of blockade instead of love and friendship when the U.S. government has maintained the longest and most brutal economic war against the people of Cuba. In this time of rampant police violence against black and brown men and women, in this time of voter suppression and disenfranchisement, in this time of government failure in urban centers across the country that have left residents who are disproportionately poor and people of color without clean drinking water, without decent schools, without decent hospitals, and a crumbling infrastructure. Together we can stop those plant closings. We can stop the water shutoffs.
Right. That's right.
We can end the unjust foreclosure.
That's right.
Together, we have the power to do this. And it's happening. And you're testament to that political power. This is the example and the legacy that Dr. King left us. This is the example we must embrace as we continue to navigate the many challenges that we face today and beyond. Here in Michigan and across the nation. Those of us who deeply value the righteous fight for social justice can only be strengthened by our astute study of King and the embrace of his example. And this is what IFCO has been able to do, to continue to stand for jobs and peace and dignity. Detroit, you're leading the way. The spirit of MLK is alive and well here in this church and in this city. And what we need to do is continue to be that example, to continue to fight on. IFCO stands with you as an organization committed to social justice, and I'm grateful for the example that you have provided and will continue to provide the world. Thank you so much.
Witness of the speakers who have joined with us today. Amen. Gracious God, we give you thanks for food in a world where many walk in hunger. We give you thanks for family, friends, and community in a world where many walk alone. We give you thanks for faith. And others at the small little table over here, a small group of us do, and break bread. And we serve lunch to the people of this community. We count it our honor and our privilege to serve in the city of Detroit. May these gifts empower us to faithfully serve and witness to God's transformative love.
We'll have a cultural program right there.
I'm sorry, love.
Yeah.
What time Laura does everything and then we go on. Okay. Let's do it. Then let's just, we're just going to leave it like this. You guys can work the thing out with the mics.
All right, they will have some entertainment here later. So they're setting up, but they're breaking bread in the basement. Here we go. Be the change you wish to see in the world. That guy looks familiar. This looks like a complicated instrument to play. There's all these knobs and buttons and holy Toledo. And there's like 6 keyboards. Let's see how many you can count. Wait a second, maybe 4. But there's more little buttons or pedals. 1, 2, 3, 4 keyboards. 1 would be hard enough, let alone 4. Plus the floor gig thing with all those pedals. Look at the woodworking. It's a beautiful church. But because of the cold weather, the march was canceled. So they went right from the rally with all the speakers, which we just heard, to the community meal and cultural event will follow. That'll be the entertainment. Oh, they're going to have an event, Women Walking Woodward for Peace. I don't know if they would allow me to check that out. I think I will try to. Woodward Avenue, though. Here's looking downtown. You can get here by bus, too. Behold how good and how beautiful it is for brethren to... I can't read that fast. I should rewind it. Look at the doors. Yeah. You can hear the columns. There's a good row of churches right along this stretch of Woodward Avenue. There's like at least a dozen, if not more. All right, so we're in the North End neighborhood. And actually, I found this out by watching Channel 50. They had a program on Saturday morning, Street Beats or something like that. They had someone on there that said, hey, you can check out the different neighborhoods in Detroit and go online. So the website is The Neighborhoods, and it's plural, not neighborhood. You got to put the hoods, the S on the end, .org. theneighborhoods.org. And so they got Detroit broken down by the different hoods, which is cool. So we're in the North End hood. Jim Holly, he's quite well known. He's at 9,000 Woodward in historic Little Rock Baptist Church. And it was called by another name earlier. But I love these historical placards. And it's there's some interesting caricatures on the side to protect, and a cherubic looking thing there, baby. Yeah, sometimes you have to do like Isaiah said, you gotta look up. And then you see these ornate features. But yeah, it was cold, super cold this particular day, but nice blue sky, so it was a good sky day. Here, I don't know if this is Detroit Public Schools or if it was something else, but here, home of the Pink Panthers. Who knew? Sometimes you only by like walking around you catch these other details. And one day, this was a Detroit Public School, Northern High School. You can see it way up there, Northern High School. Kind of hidden and all that, but yeah, look at the detail. But yeah, we have Betsy DeVos, and she really doesn't like public schools. Everything's got to be charter. I don't agree with that at all. But you can get here by the fast, and it is fast, and fast and smart bus. And I think it's $2 a ride, but you have limited stops. But still, it gets you there fast. Look at the detail up top here. wowie kazowie. Detroit is getting rediscovered. Make no mistake about it. There's a lot of jewels within the city, even like that flower pot. Well, if you go westbound on Claremont, you'll get to the site of the riots, and that certainly was a turning point for the city of Detroit. But luckily, the millennials don't have that baggage to deal with. And so I think they're looking at Detroit in a different light. And Detroit will be great again. It'll take a little time, but it's back up on the upswing. They're renovating this building, so doing some work. Now, a nice smokestack here. I think this is one behind Northern High School. 14 degrees, but geez, the last week in January, it's going to get a lot colder than that even. That's crazy. Crazy cold. The polar vortex. But I wanted to check out the hood around here. This looked like it was a service station back in the day. This is a solid building here. There's some good housing stock. It'd be interesting to find out the values, what things are appraised at. Things are flying high. Yeah, here's another smokestack. Look at this. Look at the detail there. Looks like Puabic tile. But, yeah, some of these little TLC and that and some fresh paint and little work and so forth, but you can see, you know, Old Glory. There's some things, you know, Detroit had the reputation of being like the whole city was in bad shape, and that's so untrue. Some things you just got to dust off the top a little bit. But 8850, this is the address here of the church, St. Matthew's and St. Joseph's, and they have services at 8 and 11. Here was the official poster, but we missed the march, so maybe next year we'll do that, hopefully. But I wanted the line to go down a little bit, but breaking bread. So I got chili plus soup with rice. Oh, yeah. And it's the poorhouse. So breaking bread with the brethren. I down the chili. Now I'm going to make use. See how I did that? And then they had a lot of desserts, so no problem if you had a sweet tooth. Some would say this is the best part of kind of these things, but when you're doing an event, yeah, food goes with everything. It goes well with everything. So march, rally, we're going to have entertainment here shortly, too, to round out the top of the hour. But, yeah, there were some great speakers, and it gives you a different perspective. I love this kind of event type thing. I know it's maybe a dry for a lot of people, but this kind of stuff they should do more of this. But Dr. King, yeah, what a speaker. And if he was still alive, the things he would be promoting. Avalon, we can promote them. They make bread in the city. Oh, and I signs everywhere, and I wasn't working, but I just wanted to take a peek. Here's the entertainment.
It's the nature of time, they do vanish in a rhyme, to be gone without a sign. That's if you know. Answer my question. Let me get them drums over there.
Justice is juxtapositioning us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When they go down, we woman and man up. They say stand down, and we stand up. Shots be on the ground, the camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, glory, glory, oh, glory, glory. Now the war is over. Victory is won. But we'll fight on to anyway, it's all done. Look right, glory, oh, glory, Summon's now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles from dark.
Jim Crow, 3 bits human, segregation, grandfather clause, literacy test, poll tax, menstruation, rape, water hose, dogs, suspect. Like ducks, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll
Thanks for watching.